Square One TV presents You Call the Angle. When Joe Merez isn't winning freestyle skateboarding contests, you can catch him around practicing geometry. In this trick, can you tell if Joe's skateboard does a half turn called a 180, a full turn called a 360, or a turn and a half? That's a 540. Can you call the angle? Now, here's a clue. You were right. Joe's board did a 360. There are 360 degrees in a full turn.
Think about that.
Pattern, brought to you by Geometry, another division of mathematics. It's more than just arithmetic.
These two contestants, Adine Michelin and Cynthia Rothschild, will separate mathematical facts from fiction. Welcome to Square One Challenge. I'm Reggie Cathy, and now without further ado, let's meet the host of our show, Mr. Larry Cedar.
Hey, Red, how you doing? Good to see you, guys.
See you.
Listen, welcome to Square One Challenge. We got a great game for you today. We have some terrific questions and some fabulous contestants. Welcome to the show, Cynthia and Adine. I know you know how the game is played. We're going to start you each off with 100 points. And let's get right to our first question. Helping us out today with that first question from Square One TV, Beverly Mickens. Hi, Beverly. How you doing?
Hey.
I want you to look at this box there in the corner. There it is. Now, here's the question. If we unfold this box, could it look like any of these? A, B, or C? That's the question. If we unfold that box, could it look like A, B, or C? And now with some answers to that question, let's meet today's guests from Square One TV, Chris Franco and Cynthia Darlow. Welcome.
Hi, Eric.
Oh, it's good to have you. Cynthia, what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, Adine and Cynthia, it could look like box A. These pieces that Beverly is pointing to fold in to form the side, and these, the top and bottom.
All right, Cynthia says A. Chris?
I disagree. I think it could look like C. That top piece that Beverly's pointing to would fold down, and all the rest would fold in, and you get the same box. I think it's C.
Chris says C. Cynthia says A. They may both be bluffing. They may both be telling the truth. Think about it and write down your decision. All right, the time is up. Adine, what have you decided?
Well, I think Cynthia's bluffing and Chris is telling the truth.
Cynthia is bluffing and Chris is telling the truth. Thank you. Cynthia,
I agree. I think Cynthia is bluffing and Chris is telling the truth.
you also think Cynthia is bluffing and Chris is telling the truth. Now, you'll get 25 points for each correct decision, so let's find out how you did. Will the truth tellers please stand? They were both telling the truth. Cynthia, would you help us explain?
Yes, sir. You are both correct. Now, take a look at this. Take these and fold them in to the side, and these two little flaps here to form the box that you saw at the beginning. See?
Chris.
Okay, and this was figure C, and I said you fold the top down, and you fold all the rest of it in, like this, and you get the same box. See, Larry?
Very good. Let's find out how you did. Adine, you were correct about Chris, not about Cynthia, but you will get 25 points for one correct decision, a total of 125. Nice start. Cynthia also correct about Chris only, 25 points, 125. We have a tie game going into our second round. Excellent start. Now, this second question is a video question, so pay close attention to the video monitor. This is the famous artist, Claudia Monet. Now, Claudia loves to observe the water lilies on a nearby pond. She was astonished to learn that the surface area covered by lily pads doubled every month. At the end of 1 year, the pond was completely covered. At the end of 1 year. Here's the question. At the end of how many months was the pond only 1/2 covered? All right, the lily pads double every month. At the end of 1 year, the pond was completely covered. Question, at the end of how many months was the pond only one half covered? Cynthia?
Well, it seems to me if the pond was completely covered at the end of 12 months, it seems to me that the pond was one half covered at the end of 6 months.
One half covered at the end of 6 months. Thank you, Cynthia. Chris?
Well, I think that the answer is 11 months. It's because the pond was covered in 12 months, so it would be half covered 1 month earlier, and that's 11 months.
Chris says one half covered in 11 months. Cynthia says in 6 months. Think about it. Write down your decision. All right, you've locked in those decisions. Dean, what do you think?
Well, Larry, like the last question, I think Chris is telling the truth and Cynthia's bluffing.
You think Chris is telling the truth again, and Cynthia is bluffing. Remember, Chris said 11 months, Cynthia said 6 months. Cynthia, what do you think?
Again, I agree. I think that Chris is telling the truth and Cynthia's bluffing.
Okay, Chris telling the truth, Cynthia bluffing. Let's find out how you did with our second question. Will the truth tellers please stand? Chris was telling the truth, Cynthia was bluffing.
Can't fool them.
Chris, you want to explain while we take a look at the monitor?
Certainly. I worked backwards. Good. Here's the pond completely covered at the end of the 12 months. Now remember, the area of the pads doubled every month. So 1 month earlier, at the end of 11 months, the pond is only half covered. And there's Claudia.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Cynthia. Let's find out how you did. Dean, correct about Cynthia and Chris, 50 points, total of 175. Cynthia, correct about Cynthia and Chris, 50 points, 175. Tie game. You guys are doing very, very well. However, we are going into the challenge round, which is your opportunity to break that tie. Now, you know how we play the challenge round. You are permitted to bet part or all of your points. You each have 175. The decision is up to you how much you want to bet. And with the challenge question is Red Kathy. Thank you very much. Now, before you decide how much you want to bet, let me tell you that this challenge round question focuses on the subject of probability. It focuses on probability. So think about that and write down the amount you wish to bet on your wager board. Okay, you've written down your wagers. Now, I will tell you, I have here a fair coin. A fair coin. Now, what that means is that the probability of getting heads on each flip is 1/2. And the probability of getting tails is also 1/2. Now, the chart, which Beverly is showing you here, shows my results after 8 flips. I got heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, and then tails. Here's the question. Which is more likely on my next flip? Heads or tails? That's the question for the challenge round. Now, to win the challenge round, you must be correct about both players, so let's find out what they think. Cynthia.
Well, I see an obvious pattern here. The coin is probably going to land heads since the last flip was tails. I say heads is more likely.
Cynthia thinks heads is more likely. Chris.
Well, yeah, there is an obvious head-tail pattern, but I think it's very unlikely that this pattern will continue, and I think that tails is more likely.
Chris thinks tails. Cynthia thinks heads. Think about it and write down your decision. Which is more likely on my next flip? All right, for the challenge round and possibly the game, you've written down and locked in your decisions. Dean.
Well, this time I changed my answer. This time I think Cynthia is telling the truth and Chris is bluffing.
You think Cynthia is telling the truth and Chris is bluffing. All right. Cynthia.
Third time in a row, I agree with him. I think that Chris is bluffing and Cynthia is telling the truth.
Cynthia is telling the truth and Chris is bluffing. All right, let's find out how you did. Now, you're going to have to be correct about both. Will the truth tellers please stand? They were both bluffing, and let me explain to you why. The probability of the coin landing heads or tails is independent of what happened on previous flips. Okay, it doesn't matter what happened before, no matter how many times you flip it. So neither heads nor tails is more likely than the other. The probability of each is 1/2. Kind of tricky there, but there it is. Let's find out how you did. Adine, you were correct about Chris, not about Cynthia, so we have to subtract what you wagered. And how much did you wager?
50 points.
50 points, leaving you with a finishing total of 125. Cynthia, you were correct about Chris, but not Cynthia. How much did you wager? 75. You took a bigger risk, but we have to subtract it, leaving you with 100 points. I'm sorry, but Adine, you are our grand prize winner. Congratulations. Well, I tell you, in this case, they were very close, and the amount you wagered made the difference. But it was a close game. I must congratulate you. Cynthia, as our runner-up, you will receive a cool sport gesture gym bag, which is great, and the all-natural laser hologram calculator. Have some fun with that. Dean, as our grand prize winner, you get the Square One jacket. You also receive a certificate for some sneakers, and you will get the still waterproof Square One watch. So congratulations to you both. A great game, very close. We'll see you next time on Square One Challenge. Good game, very good. Thank you.
Heads or tails? Tails. Heads or tails? Brought to you by probability. Another division of mathematics. It's more than just arithmetic.
General Mathpital. Crossroads of nearly 1,000 lives. A sanctuary, a haven, an edifice dedicated to the needs of those whose mathematical health is threatened.
Dr. Ehrlich, the nursing staff has just looked at your records. You're clear.
Dr. Frankenstein, Dr. Victor Frankenstein, please go to the laboratory. It's loose again. Oh, Doctor, thank goodness you're here.
Have a problem?
No, thanks. Just had one. But there's a woman in 307 who needs to see you. And, well, Doctor, I just don't.
You don't trust her?
No, Doctor, I don't.
You mean she has an angle?
Exactly.
Doctor. Oh, Doctor, thank gosh you're here.
What's the problem?
It's bigger than I thought. I don't have room to keep it in my house. What can I do?
Well, you have three choices. Build a bigger house.
Out of the question.
We can cut the leg.
Absolutely not.
Or we can perform a bisection.
What is a bisectomy?
To bisect something means to cut it into two pieces, each the same size.
Is it painful?
Not if I'm careful with the compress.
Oh, the poor thing.
Now. Not to worry, not to worry. Here, I'll show you. First, I set the compass, like so. Then, I scribe arcs around the vertex of the angle.
But that's all there is to it.
Hardly. Where the arc crosses the leg, I scribe another arc here,
I think I see what you're doing.
and similarly on the other leg, here.
Using the same radius.
Exactly. Now, this is my favorite part. I place the straight edge very carefully. And now, voila. We've bisected the angle. You see, from this angle, we've constructed two smaller angles, each the same size.
Doctor, you're marvelous.
Thank you. Now, would you like to go ahead with the operation?
Yes. Oh, yes, Doctor.
You've made a valiant choice.
And so once again, common sense and geometry have solved another problem at General Mathpital. Crossroads of nearly 1,000 lives. Until next time, stay healthy and may the math be with you.
In every occupation, wherever you may go, gotta know that. You'll need it for the future, whatever you may do. You need some math to make your dreams come true. You gotta know math. You gotta know math. Yeah.
The story you are about to see is a fib, but it's short. The names are made up, but the problems are real.
It was Wednesday, 9:43 a.m., and New York was ablaze in color. The annual Festoon Your Favorite Waiter Festival was underway, and the Upper West Side bistros were expected to win again. I was working the day watch out of Mathnet. The chief is Joe Greco. My partner is George Franklin. My name is Tuesday. I'm a mathematician. We were grappling with a problem of burglaries in New York City. There had been significant increases in at least 2 of our precincts. In one case, the victims were all out of town.
And they were all in the Pocono Mountains.
The Poconos Paradise.
Why do you say that? We've got a hunch that the guy who owns that joint is behind all these burglaries.
And that's where we're off to, Captain G. See you around. Posing as husband and wife, we talked with the manager of the resort and wangled an invitation to the place to see what we could learn.
Will we see you this weekend?
I can't guarantee that. I'm a very busy man on weekends.
I'll bet you are busy on weekends.
Well, weekends are when I make the big money.
Uh-huh.
We were pretty sure Mr. Muck was our man, and when we got back to Mathnet HQ, we asked Captain Greco about the second series of burglaries.
We were correct, right, Skipper? The victims were all out of town?
Yes.
And we were right that they were all in the Poconos Paradise, too, right?
Wrong.
What do you mean?
Wrong. Incorrect. Negative.
Where were they?
Atlantic City.
That information broke the pattern we had been working on. We were disappointed, but not discouraged. We asked Benny Pill to run a check on Thurlow Muck. Maybe he had connections in Atlantic City.
I ran a quick check on our Mr. Muck Mathnetters.
And he has a record as long as your arm, right?
And vast gambling ties in Atlantic City.
And he's done time for scamming in the past, right?
He's as clean as a hound's tooth.
Hound's what?
Tooth.
No criminal record?
No criminal record. He's in the Poconos selling condos every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. An ironclad alibi. J. Thurlow Muck is not our man.
We played a couple of hunches, guesses based on partial information. They got us nowhere. George formalized some burglary stats. I listened.
This chart indicates the pattern of burglaries in New York City for the past year. Lower in winter, higher in summer.
But nothing unusual.
Exactly. Not too exciting so far, right?
Not so far.
Well, hold on to your hat, Pat. There has been an unusual upsurge in the number of burglaries in both the 19th and 20th precincts.
Thanks for warning me to hold on to my hat, George. But
Hold your horses. In each set of burglaries, there's been no sign of forced entry.
I'm still holding on to my horses, George.
No fingerprints, and the places were all ripped off on the same weekend.
George, we know all that. We also know the victims lived in the same zip code, were out of town at the same time, and are taxpayers. So what?
Get a grip on yourself.
Only got 2 hands, and I'm already holding onto my hat and a bunch of horses.
Now that we have our own computer, I can very easily take a look at the burglaries in New York for, say, the past 6 months to look for patterns.
Uh-huh. And did you find any?
You bet. There are 21 precincts in Manhattan, right?
Right. And you found 21 different patterns?
Nope. There was nothing unusual in the data for 15 of them.
What about the other 6?
We know that the 19th and 20th have had an unusual number of burglaries. So have the 7th, 6th, 10th, 17th. Each had burglaries with the same characteristics. Look, each precinct had its burglaries on a single weekend.
No forced entry.
Yep,
No fingerprints.
exactly. Victims in the same zip codes, all out of town.
Where were they?
I don't know yet. Is Benny back?
Haven't seen him. Why?
He's interviewing some of the victims.
What for? Looking for more patterns?
Hey, good morning, Each.
Hey, speaking of the Dickens.
Hi, Benny. Any luck?
Maybe. I talked with some of the victims going back as far as 3 months ago. One pattern holds true. They were all out of town when the apartments were robbed.
Were they all either in the Poconos or Atlantic City?
No, none of them were.
Where were they?
somewhere in Tanglewood in the Berkshires listening to classical music.
Martha and I were there 3 weeks ago. We heard Rachmaninoff's 4th piano concerto in F. It wasn't very good. Rachmaninoff didn't show up, so some other guy played it.
Some of the other victims were at a polo match in Greenwich, but still others were away on a trip to Waynesville, Virginia.
Are these out-of-town trips always held on weekends?
Yes, they were. And you know what else? They were all asked to go by invitation.
In the mail.
Right.
So,
Maybe it's time to play.
what do we know?
We know some people are getting ripped off.
You know they're getting ripped off when they're out of their apartment.
And out of town.
Out of town in different places.
Different. Same.
Right. We know the people that get robbed on the same weekend seem to be out of town in the same place.
Maybe they're hosts again.
But the probability of 6 different people using the same kind of scam in the same city at the same time.
Very small.
Okay. Suppose one person is behind this wave of burglary. He has to know when his victims are going to be out of town, right?
Right.
So, who would know that?
We know they're all being invited to these dues by mail.
Mail? The postman did it?
I thought he only rang twice.
It couldn't have been the postman. These burglaries happen all over town. Dozens of people would be carrying invitations.
No one postal person could know about it.
But a mailing house could.
Mailing?
Of course. A mailing house. You know, Benny, when you get all that junk mail every day trying to sell you all kinds of things, a mailer gets your address from a mailing house.
It's a business. They compile lists of names and addresses and sell them to advertisers.
That's how it works. A mailing house sells the list to these companies.
And the mailing house would know who was going to be out of town.
Suppose someone from that mailing house goes to the unwitting vacationer's apartment
And rips them off. I'm going to make a few phone calls to the Weekend Post.
While George called the companies which use direct mail to find out if they use the same mailing house, I tried to sort things out in my head. When solving a problem, it's a good idea to step back, take a deep breath, and see if you've overlooked anything vital.
Wait a minute, Pat. How would a mailing house know which of the invitations they sent out had been accepted?
Simple. There's always an RSVP phone number to call to make your reservation. That number could go directly to the mailing house.
I see. And they tell the resort guy how many people are coming.
Not only how many, but when and who. We continued to ponder as George wrapped up his telephone inquiries.
Guess what?
They all use the same mailing house?
Yep.
Bingo.
It's a company called Bayonne Car RT Sort.
What do you say to a little trip to Bayonne, New Jersey, Benny?
Great! I understand Bayonne's beautiful this time of year.
We made an appointment to see the president of Bayonne Car RT Sort, a Ms. I.O. Privacy. She was not one to beat around the bush.
How may I help you?
We'd like to know something about mailing lists.
What in particular?
How does your business work?
My company has put together a mailing list of names and addresses throughout the country. That is our database. Companies pay us to use our list.
But why come to you? Why not use telephone books from around the country?
Good question, Mr. Franklin, but as you must appreciate, I'm sure, one gets such a rigidity of data representation from a phone book.
Yes, of course. How silly of me.
The only search of that data which one can manifest successfully is an alphabetical slogging across a beleaguered footprint.
What do they get from your company, Ms. Privacy?
Special lists of people. Let's say you sell tractors for a living.
Martha has a friend who does.
And let's say your research shows most of your prospective customers live on farms, have at least 50 acres of land, earn $20,000 a year or more, and haven't bought a new tractor in 5 years. We could provide you with a list like that.
You can provide that kind of information?
That certainly pinpoints a group of prospects.
We can be much more precise.
Suppose I wanted to reach people who had 2 children.
Boys or girls?
One of each.
Very well.
And who live in cities of more than 100,000 population.
Go on.
And who take one vacation a year and always drive station wagons. Could you do that?
There are 1,480 people in my database that fit your profile. If you'll give me 10 minutes, I'll have a printout for you. That's incredible. We can put together lists based on age, race, annual incomes, gender, vocations, hobbies, food preferences, neighborhoods.
Neighborhood?
Yes? If you wish to reach people who live in one-family homes in Green Bay, Wisconsin, we could provide a list.
What about apartments?
What kind of apartment? A list that reaches only people who live in one-bedroom apartments? Apartments above a certain floor? Apartments which rent for more than $1,000 a month?
That's all doable?
Absolutely.
Then you would have no trouble getting together a list of young, wealthy, upwardly mobile folks.
No.
Or middle-aged people who like to gamble.
No?
Who live in a given area of New York City?
None whatsoever.
Could you tell us, Ms. Privacy, if these companies are clients of yours?
I believe so. Well, let me check. Yeah, each has used our service. Why do you ask?
We have a bit of a crime wave on our hands.
Oh, really?
Yes. How many people have access to your list, Ms. Privacy?
I'm sure you must appreciate just how valuable this list is.
Yes, it must be worth a fortune.
Quite so.
So, how many people?
Have access to your...
One.
One?
Who?
Me?
No one else sees the master list?
Correct?
And you are the only person at your company who knows who has accepted invitations to a given event?
That's right. I get the acceptances for each event and send them to my clients. But I don't see what you're getting at.
Many of the people who went to these events were robbed, Ms. Privacy.
By who?
Whom?
Whom?
You.
100% of Square One TV is a production of the Children's Television Workshop. This program was made possible by grants from the National Science Foundation, the Carnegie Corporation of New York, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and by the financial support of viewers like you.
Corporate funding of Square One TV is provided by the Intel Corporation Foundation. Intel's technology is the brain power for computers in your life. Intel, the computer inside.
T, B. Major funding for this afternoon's programming is provided by the Helena Rubinstein Foundation, a longtime supporter of outstanding children's television.
Answer the questions. Listen to clues. Bend over backwards. Don't ever snooze. She's on the loose. She's on the lam. We need your help. We're in a jam. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Next.
Un gatito.
Is the brain quicker than the calculator?
6 times -7.
-46. Yes. There's a person on the calculator.
There's one person who's being tested, and someone being tested tries to beat the calculator.
90.
6a squared minus b plus 7.
Stays the same.
Yes. 12.
22.
24.
The brain is quicker than the calculator.